hjärtligt välkomna till kvällens livesändning med Vinkompassen. Jag har ju den otroligt stora äran att ha med mig en gäst på länk ikväll direkt från Nya Zeeland. Och som ni vet så har vi lite tidsskillnad, så att klockan är faktiskt 5:30, alltså 05:30 på morgonen på Nya Zeeland. Så att det är ju riktigt häftigt att Jamie tar sig tiden att hänga med oss trots att det är så tidigt på morgonen. Han har en tid att passa så att vi ska dra igenom den här sändningen så effektivt vi bara kan och få med så många punkter som möjligt. Som vanligt så får ni jättegärna kommentera hur många ni är som tittar. Och är det något knas med ljud eller liknande så hojta gärna till. Annars så dela gärna sändningen, lägg upp en bild på Instagram, stories eller här i flödet om ni provar vinerna och tagga gärna oss. Nu tänker jag att vi tar in Jamie på en gång. Jamie, you're in. Welcome to
Morning,
Sweden.
how you going? Welcome to Sweden, all right?
Welcome to Sweden. Jamie Marfell from, you are the winemaker-in-chief at Stoneleighs. For the people that don't know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I guess I've been Stoneleighs winemaker, chief winemaker for about just over 20 years now. So I'm a born and bred Bulgarian. So my parents were sheep farmers in little old Blenheim, little old Marlborough. So I was brought up in Marlborough on a sheep farm. I guess the amazing thing about my journey with Stoneleighs is that I guess I was about 8 years old when the first grapes were actually planted in Marlborough. So a lot of what's happened in New Zealand, what's happened in Marlborough with Sauvignon Blanc, everything else, it kind of happened in my generation. So I'm kind of the first generation of winemakers coming through New Zealand. So I've been quite lucky though to kind of see the journey and see the industry kind of grow from pretty much nothing to what it is today. It's quite exciting.
It's well, that's very exciting to have been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
But Marlborough, New Zealand, I guess New Zealand is very famous as a wine region in Sweden, but Marlborough, do you want to? I actually have a really good map here. I start with just this quick so people actually know where we are.
I guess. Yeah, the crazy thing about, I guess, Marlborough, or even New Zealand in itself, and pretty much we're two islands in the bottom of the world, and a lot of what makes us quite unique, I guess, as a country for making wines is the fact that we are surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, which is quite cold water. You know, a lot of the water flows are coming off Antarctica. A lot of our weather patterns are coming off Antarctica. So even though I guess we fit into the wine belt for growing grapes, but the fact that we're surrounded by this cold water means we get these lovely warm days and good ripening days, but at night it cools down because of the sea temperature. The sea temperature is quite moderating. And when you look at New Zealand, we're two islands. It's pretty hard to see, but pretty much there's the main divide that runs through the North Island and the South Island. And pretty much what it does is from a weather pattern point of view, all our rainfall tends to be happening on the west coast, and it's very dry on the east coast. So all our grape growing regions are pretty much down that right-hand side of the North Island and the right-hand side of the South Island. So that's where Marlborough sits. It sits on this kind of belt on the east coast.
I have a pretty good map out of, now we're gone for a few minutes, short, but a pretty good map out of Marlborough as well. Where are you located?
Yeah. So basically, this is the Marlborough region, so it's top of the South Island. You can see Cloudy Bay out to sea there. But we, as a wine producing company, we sit in the Rapaura Valley, the top end of the map there. So, but it's not just in the Rapaura Valley. We sit on the northern side of that valley, very close to the Rapaura River. So, the riverbeds the vineyards we're located for Stoneleighs are very close to that Rapaura River, so they're kind of alluvial riverbed soils sitting on that top end of the Rapaura.
Beautiful. We have quite a lot of wines, and actually I'm just going to show them because these are quite new labels. We just got new labels on some of the bottles, right? Very recently.
This is going to change it. It's going to freshen the label. It's like most things, you've got to give it a refresh. It just adds a bit more vibrancy and a bit more kind of character to what Stoneleigh is all about. I mean, Stoneleigh is all about nature. It's all about, for us, it's all about the vineyards and their location next to the Wairau, as I said, and it's all about that biodiversity. It's all about sustainability. So I think the new label kind of brings to life that kind of sustainability, biodiversity, being with nature.
I really like the labels. Really nice and fresh. I actually got some really nice pictures here as well from that Jed sent me. I need to show one of the vineyards. Let's see. Here we have one of the vineyards.
It's gorgeous. It's a few months ago. The leaves are still on. But you can see the soil types here. Pretty much the alluvial soils. You can see we actually roll down the stones into the soil. They're actually not too good on farm equipment, but you can see the location or the kind of the soil types we're dealing with. So it's kind of free draining, low nutrient soils. There's a bit of sunshine. It is quite a unique part of Marlborough. But that defines our wine styles as well. When we go through the tasting, you'll see I talk about a flintiness, I talk about a fineness about the wines, I talk about acidity. But if you kind of picture the soil type and kind of put that into the wine, that's what you kind of get.
I got some really nice. You talked about sheeps. No, that was a falcon. It was a vineyard animal.
Yeah. Oh, classic. This is a New Zealand falcon. It's quite crazy. This is quite a rare New Zealand falcon. We've got these. We've got some aviaries actually on our vineyards. They're absolutely beautiful bird, but they are low in numbers. It's the only falcon in the world that actually, the only falcon in the world that actually nests on the ground. So actually, it doesn't. So it gets predated by animals and stuff like that. So it's not a good story.
Does it live in the vineyards or?
It's in the hills around the vineyards, yes. And basically, it's all about, when we talk about biodiversity and sustainability, it's about growing stuff in the vineyards to allow the falcons to come down and get amongst our vineyards again.
And these ones, they grow in the vineyards as well?
No. Yeah, they're great everywhere. We have a few of those still hanging around. They're quite handy.
I went to New Zealand, I think it's 2 years ago now, for 3 weeks, and I traveled around, and I couldn't, of course I knew about sheep, but not that many. They were, they were just all over the place, but it was so cute. Maybe if we should start with tasting some wine.
Yep.
And I am pouring the Sauv Blanc. Let's see, I'm gonna have that one to start with. And this is just a classic. Please tell me about this wine.
I mean, this is our mainstay in our portfolio and what's kind of put us on the map, actually. The Stoneleighs Sauv Blanc, it's a relatively simple wine we've made. It's simple. It's like keeping everything really simple. It's pretty much made in the vineyard. It's all about doing everything correct in the vineyard. Sauvignon Blanc doesn't like water stress. It's keeping a lovely, vibrant canopy. It's just picking it at the right time. So basically, when I'm going to the vineyards and I'm tasting the grapes, I'm just looking for that balance between sweetness and acidity. I'm looking for vibrancy, that real clear brightness of fruit. So when I'm tasting, I'm looking for that kind of real grapefruit, passion fruit sort of flavors in the grape itself. And basically, it's machine harvested, which is really, really important. I'll probably talk about that a bit later, but pretty much New Zealand grape growing is all about mechanization. But machine harvest, it smashes up the berry. The precursors for Sauvignon Blanc are all in the skins. So you really want to actually destroy the skins. You want to release the precursors from the skins into the juice, such you get all these precursors, and then the yeast convert all the precursors into these lovely grapefruit, passion fruit kind of flavors, tropical flavors. So basically, it's kind of capturing the vineyard and bringing it into the glass. It's keeping it relatively simple. But when you're tasting the wine, there's two parts of it: it's the aromatics and the vibrancy on the nose. But on the palate, Stoneleigh's all about acidity and freshness and a good length of palate. It doesn't really have broadness, but this kind of flinty, real lovely acidity and freshness about the palate.
It's super fresh, and as you say, it's all about acidity as well, and you still have that passion fruit and freshness. You can definitely feel that this is from New Zealand. It's a very lovely style of wine. You're all about like organic and sustainable farming is very, very important for you. Tell us a little bit about that.
I guess there's two parts of it. Sustainability is probably a New Zealand story, because pretty much about 98% of our vineyards and wineries all within the New Zealand wine growing sustainability program. So that's all about, I guess, looking at what you actually do in the vineyard, measuring what you're doing, then comparing yourself to your neighbour, then putting in best practice. And so it covers like vineyard practices, but also looks at things like your environment, look at your biodiversity. I talk about biodiversity, looks at your soil, what you grow between the plants, what you grow in the corner of the vineyard. And then sustainability from winery point of view as well, that you measure the inputs, you measure your electricity and your water and stuff like that, and then you're comparing yourself to your neighbour to ensure that what you're doing is the best thing as well. So sustainability is all about measuring a lot and benchmarking and doing better, and the whole wine industry has been moving, I think, in a sustainable way for the last 10, 15, 20 years now. So it's a lovely space. Then on top of that, you've got organic. So we've got quite a lot of organic vineyards as well. So that best practice comes into our sustainability program as well. So it's kind of overlaps, what we learn between sustainability and organic. So yeah, it's exciting. It's great.
Are you because you have a high percentage of organic, it's almost all of them, right? Soon.
No. It's only a relatively small percentage. I think of our total vineyards were, about 15%.
15%.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's 15. Yeah, it's relatively low actually. And we're going through a phase where it's interesting. We're also doing the next phase is regenerative viticulture. So, which is it's like part of organics, but also looking at the whole commercial sustainability of the soil going forward commercially. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of really interesting things around regenerative viticulture, subsurface irrigation, and all sorts of trial work we're doing at the moment. So yeah, it's really fascinating.
Everything around
Oh, it's really good. We kind of challenge everything we do actually. We're big on we just commissioned some ATVs, some automated vehicles, which really cool. We've got 5 so far. I think we're about to get another 10. So we can have these automated vehicles working in the vineyards. Again, it's all about less footprint. What you're actually doing is a little bit less, and what you're doing is better. So it's really cool as well.
Here's I have a question here from Tammy. She wonders, what's your favorite food pairing with the Sauvignon?
Oh, I'm a Kiwi. For us, it's for Sauvignon Blanc, it's a big bowl of mussels. Yeah, so it's pretty much it. It has to be seafood. It's a big bowl of mussels. We're kind of blessed with where we live. We've got the green lip mussels, which is very close to us in the Marlborough Sound. So a big bowl of green lip mussels and a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. It's wee broth. It couldn't get much better. Yeah, it is easy.
Beautiful. But you also, I'm jumping into the next wine since we need to taste them all. And that is the Wild Valley. This is also a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's a wild ferment.
Yeah. This is kind of completely opposite to the first one, really. It's incredible. We love making this wine actually, but it's slightly different in the fact that instead of, it's the same process in the vineyard, but when it hits the winery, what we're doing is relying on the natural microflora, which you actually get from the vineyard itself, to do the inoculation, to do the work of the fermentation. So we're not adding yeast to get an outcome. We're allowing this big, massive microflora to take over and make this wine. And what it does is changes the profile of the wine completely. You lose some of those big fresh aromatics, and it drives it towards probably a more nectarine, kind of peachy, tropical kind of notes, which is quite fascinating. But the big thing for wild fermentation, thing we love as winemakers, it changes the whole profile of the palate. It gets these kind of layering of flavors. So you end up with more depth, more character, as I said, more layering of flavors in the palate. And the other little crazy thing, which is probably a more winemaking thing also, some of the yeast break down some of the acids. So you end up with a wine with a lower acid as well. So you get this kind of softness and roundness around the palate. So it is quite a different style of wine. But I find it really fascinating. And from year to year, it changes too. What you get this year, what you get next year can be quite different.
And talking about that,
and we also ferment a little bit of this on old oak as well. So to again kind of accentuate the palate to get that richness as well.
And they're so different in style, these two wines, and that's the fun part of it. But you said that the wine changes year to year. Vintage challenges. Do you actually talk about, because here in Europe we talk about vintages all the time? How is it back like on New Zealand? We don't really hear about that over here.
Funny you say, it's actually quite an interesting topic actually. Because I mean, I've been making wines for 20 plus years, and basically we've only had a couple of bad vintages in that time. So basically in 1995 was not a good year, but the funny thing was we had 2 years in a row, 17 and 18, which we particularly flashed. But in a long period of time, it tends to be quite stable. So like the 20 and 21 are absolutely amazing. 20 was really good. I think 21 could even be better. So we've just finished the 21 vintage right now. We're blending up actually. The Stoneleighs Sauv Blanc was yesterday, first day of bench blend, the whole blend, and it's looking absolutely outstanding. So that's probably a step up from the 20, but it tends to be, I don't know, it might be the moderating effect of the sea or our location, but it tends to be pretty forgiving from year to year.
Yeah. That's good, because
it's not too bad. We're not too challenged.
You don't have the big problem with frost that they have now in Burgundy and Jesus.
Oh no. Oh no, no, it's not that bad. We had actually I guess from a bad point, we had bad flowering this year, which was we had a bit of wet weather over October, November. Yeah. Normally we have a chance of frost, but we had just a bit of rain and it affected our flowering. So our Sauvignon Blanc this year is down about 30%, and our Chardonnays and Pinots are down about 50%, which is very unusual, but that's just farming and you just wear it. I mean, it's not as bad as the frost. I mean, we've still got crop and the wines are still looking good. So
you still have a different crop. Perfect. Let's see. Actually, since you talked about the soil before, I have here we have some good pictures of the soil as well, like one of the vineyards.
Yeah. You can see the irrigation line too. So I should mention, we kind of have to irrigate. The other thing we don't talk about in New Zealand, or we don't talk about much, is we have a nor'wester that blows pretty much from about November right through to about end of February, and it's kind of a dry wind. And what it does is actually desiccates the leaves. So we have to irrigate most of Marlborough. So those vines there get about between 4 to 6 litres of water a day to keep them alive. It's quite amazing. But we've got plenty of water. I mean, we see on the vineyard, the water table's only about 5-6 metres down. Oh, you can see it there. Yeah. That's a brilliant photo. Yeah. So we're talking, you double that down and pretty much there's a natural aquifer that flows under our vineyard. So it's easy to tap into the water.
This is as you said, this is a really nice picture of how the soil actually looks like and different. Is the soil like this all over, or is it very different on different vineyards?
It changes because it's a floodplain. It changes from the top end of the Wairau. It tends to be more what you see there, a lot of stones at the top. When you get further out to sea, you tend to get more silts sitting over the top of those gravel. So you end up with some richer soils getting closer to the sea. Yeah. So that's on our side of the vineyard. The other side of the vineyard, because there's a fault line that goes right through the centre of Marlborough, and on the other side of the vineyard, the valley, or the Warra Valley, it's clay-based soil, so completely different soil types and producing completely different wines.
Beautiful. Talking about different wine, should we go into is there anything you want to add about the Sauvignon Blanc that we missed?
No, it's all good. No, that's good.
Let's jump
it's all good.
Let's jump into the Riesling then, because like Riesling from New Zealand, is that really a thing?
Yeah, no, not really. It's like anywhere. I wish it was a thing. It's like, at least it's something we're passionate about as winemakers. We love the Stoneleigh Riesling.
Yeah.
It's one of our iconic wines. We've been making this wine. It got planted. Some of the oldest vines in Marlborough are the Stoneleigh Riesling vines. So when they first planted the vines in Marlborough, the viticulturist at the time was Germatic, and he knew about phylloxera and stuff like that. So we actually planted on rooted vines. So these vines here are the original, so they're from the early 80s. A lot of the vines in Marlborough got pulled out because they're put on their own roots and they got phylloxera. So 70-80% of this actually fruit comes from the original vines on this original Stoneleigh vineyard. So this one here, we try and pick it nice and early. The secret to this wine is we're looking for a bit of botrytis. It naturally gets a bit of botrytis anyway, and we try and tell the vitties not to be too scared of it. And what we do is we get a little bit of botrytis, it starts shriveling a little bit, then we just pick it nice and early while it's in this kind of apricot phase. We're looking for this beautiful kind of apricot phase of ripeness. Then we just pop in there before a rain so we don't get any more botrytis, and take it off nice and early. So we try and stop ferment it with about 10.5-11% alcohol, and it's usually got about between 11, 12, 13 grams with sugar left over.
So
it's an off-dry style, but yeah, about 12, 13 grams. I think this wine's about 12.5 grams this year. I think the wine we made this year is about 14 and a half. But we've got a lot more acidity this year, so.
Because the acidity is very high, and I think it's a very nice balance of the sugar and the acidity. I just saw a question here: why does the Riesling have so much sugar in it? But for me, it's very balanced with the acidity. So even you say it's an off-dry style, and for me, this is very obvious. It should be like this.
A dry style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny one. When I enter it in shows, I enter it in the medium style or dry style. I tend to enter this wine in the dry style because the acidity sits at high 8s, sitting at 9 this year. So the acidity is so piercing that if we don't leave the sugar in it, it becomes a pretty mean wine. So purely we stop it just based on taste. To be honest, we don't really have any specs for it. So basically, when we get this beautiful balance, we just go, that's it. It's kind of a winemaker's wine. You make it to drink yourself, so that's good.
And what would you drink this wine to as a winemaker's wine?
Oh, yeah, it's aperitif. For me, it's a lunchtime aperitif. It's that go-to, lovely chilled, keep it in the ice bucket, just a aperitif. So it's just kind of for me, it just rings out summer. It's that whole salads and, smoked salmon and, that sort of.
This is really summer in a glass. Is the Asian kitchen do you have any is the Asian kitchen big on New Zealand? Because for me this is really Asian style pairing.
It is like the Asian fusion, yeah. It does. It goes well with that kind of the fish sauce or the gingers and the little bit of chili. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a beautiful wine.
Yeah.
A question here, maybe that's something we can talk about when we come into more Chardonnay, but anyhow, what sort of oak do you use, if you use it?
Oh, the only oak we use, our accountants really hate us, we tend to use a very expensive French oak. Because our wines tend to have a lot of acidity, we can't use oak which has got a wide grain, so a fast-growing oak. So we can't use American oak. We can't use like say wines from like forests like Limousin or something like in France where the grain's wide apart and the wine's a little bit sappy. So we tend to have slow growing, fine grained oak. So those wines, those oak, that oak tends to be the most expensive we can get our hands on. And we tend to be aging it more 3-year aging as well. So it tends to be finer, longer aged, fine grained oak. So it's the more expensive stuff, but that's just, you have to wear that.
more expensive stuff. Question about the Riesling. What do you think about aging? Is this drink now, or would you keep it?
Both ways. This wine ages beautifully. So we quite often do tastings back into the late 80s with this wine. Since we've been under Stelvin cap, the wine has kind of just held beautifully. It holds really nicely. So for me, you can go 6 to 10 years, no problem at all.
Yeah.
If you like aged Riesling. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially the way we made it for the last about 6, 7, 8 years. Definitely I'd say it ages quite nicely. It's gorgeous.
And Robert, he wonders, why does it get botrytis? Is it very humid where the vine grows, or what's the reason?
Oh, funny that actually. I guess Riesling is kind of prone to botrytis in Marlborough. We could chase it out with sprays and bits and pieces, but we just say to the vitties, we like a little bit of botrytis, and we tend to do our harvest decisions around that, the botrytis coming in and then drying up. So it's kind of a more winemaking decision that a little bit of botrytis is good for to get those kind of flavour profiles. So I don't tend to like really, really clean Riesling. It's just a funny thing how it's kind of worked over the years. Clean Riesling can be a little bit linear and boring.
Linear and boring. Yeah, I think this is a really nice style of Riesling, definitely. And if we're jumping into another topic that I know that you really like, is Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I heard something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Chardonnay. I guess if you go back to when Marlborough kind of kicked in, I started making wines in 1990, my first vintage. But back then, we were winning more gold medals for our Chardonnays than our Sauvignon Blancs. So it's always been a focus of what we actually done is actually making good Chardonnay. And what we had in our Stoneleighs vineyard is we had some of these plantings from like they're saying, from the 80s, which are quite old Chardonnay vines I say old for New Zealand. So we really wanted to do something quite special. So we decided to make the small batch. Sorry, the latitude. Sorry, I'm talking about the latitude. Yeah, we want to. We'll go back to this wine. Sorry, the latitude Chardonnay. This wine here is different to the next one. I was actually thinking we're doing
you jumped into the next one.
The next one, yeah. Sorry. This wine here is this wine is doing really well. This one's about fruit and vibrancy. Actually, it's quite amazing. This is mostly a clone 15. We machine harvest it. Taken into the tank, and we put it directly into oak. And pretty much, or initially we wild ferment it for the first 3, 4, 5 bricks. Then we inoculate it. Then we put it into oak. But this wine here is all about this kind of uplifted fruitness. It's an incredible wine. We kind of got onto the style about 7, 8 years ago, and it's just been going gangbusters.
This is a big seller, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's very popular.
We're having trouble keeping up with it. It's crazy, actually.
How much?
New Zealand's getting less and less. Yeah.
If we talk about this wine, I actually got a question earlier on here. How much do you export to Sweden? Do you know that?
Of this, quite a bit of it. It's probably 3/4 of it goes to Sweden. The rest of it's sold in New Zealand. It's a bit of we're trying to make some to go into Canada, but we're
drink it all over here.
You guys first. Yeah, I know.
We're thirsty.
Plus, you get it in the small format bottles as well, and we're having trouble keeping up with that as well. It's incredible.
It's all about those half bottles here. That's a perfect size for tastings like this, though. So I think a lot of people actually have bought a half-size bottle for this tasting. And people that are watching, please comment if you actually taste the wines and what flavors you get and everything, what you think about the wines. And if you have any questions for Jamie, please go on and I ask them when it suits. There's a lot of people that likes these wines. Chardonnay Latitude, can you describe the aromas? How would you describe this wine? Brenda,
it tends to be more on that kind of peachy. Yeah, it's more that kind of nectarine. We're looking for nectarine and peach in this particular wine. definitely in that kind of not less citrus and probably more kind of pit fruit sort of styles. And it's kind of got this kind of lusciousness about it as well, kind of generosity about it as well, which is it's really attractive. And it's just got this kind of natural balance between fruit and acid, which is really, really nice. Yes. We're actually planting more grapes actually at the moment, try to supply this wine. It's quite exciting, really.
New vineyards just for this.
Planting more Chardonnay in Sauv Blanc country, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, and that is like for us, Sauvignon Blanc maybe, or not for me, maybe that knows the country a little bit more, but for general people, I think New Zealand is all about Sauvignon Blanc, but Chardonnay, you make amazing Chardonnays over there, and it's really a favorite style you like.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of a little niche thing in Marlborough. You know, there's like a little Chardonnay club that people kind of hang out and drink Chardonnay.
Chardonnay club.
Yeah.
Jumping into, while we talk about Chardonnay, should we talk about your this one, the icon?
Yeah, this is our icon. So basically, we launched this a couple of years ago for the first time. As I said, I was talking about this wine a bit too early. Yeah, we just wanted to make something which is quite unique. We wanted something which has ageability, has structure, and has lots of complexity. So we wanted to make something quite a serious style of Chardonnay. So this is the only place it's sold actually is in Sweden. So
really,
and it's
Swedish
it's
market?
only a small
Wow.
It's a small batch, so we make roughly around about or close to 1,000 litres. So this is a barrel selection of Chardonnay. So basically we whole bunch press it. We press it direct into barrel. It just wild ferments, wild malo. Then basically it's a selection of barrels to make the best wine we can. It is quite unique. It's got those kind of characteristics. We talk about the stony soils and the flintiness. It's got all that kind of flinty, hot rock. You know, when you grab two rocks together and rub them together, and you smell those two rocks, you kind of get that flinty kind of minerality and tightness. And it's got everything. It's a bit of everything really.
And this, I would say, ages very well. I guess I want to try this in a couple of years. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. And plus, I think it kind of needs a bit of food too. I think it's definitely not an aperitif. See, most of our wines, like you drink the previous Chardonnay as an aperitif. You could drink the Riesling and the Sauvignon Blancs as aperitifs. But this one here, I think you probably want to be putting it with something. It needs to be complemented with food, I think.
Yeah. Well,
it's quite an interesting wine.
Definitely impressive wine, and needs something on the plate. Definitely beautiful. It looks like some people actually are trying this. Beautiful, fun. Question here: it's a great leap between icon and regular Chardonnay. Anything in between soon? You have a Chardonnay in between, or is it?
We do. We have a Rapaura series, which is our single vineyard wine. So the one between Latitude and we have Rapaura series, single vineyard wine. So and stylistically, it probably sits in the middle as well.
Yeah,
it's a bit more generosity of fruit, less fruit. Yeah, sorry, it's more complexity compared to the Latitude. Yeah, it's a beautiful wine too, actually.
Definitely, it's a very, very beautiful. And the Rapaura series, that's single vineyard, no?
Yes,
remember.
It is, yeah.
Again, single vineyard.
Yeah, the single vineyard. Yeah, pretty much single vineyard one.
Perfect. And now I'm jumping very quickly here, but we'll see if we get any questions and see what we have missed. But I had a question here in the scroll. If there's a lot of great white wines here, do you make any red ones? And here we go.
Yeah,
we got the Pinot.
Yeah, Pinot. That's quite interesting. I mean, Pinot's pretty much our only red variety in Marlborough now. When I first started, we used to grow Cabernet. We grew Merlot. We've grown Malbec, and we did it very badly. It's probably more making kind of vegetable wine than anything else. We just don't really have the heat units to kind of push those red varieties into a right spectrum. So very much cool climate, and very much, Pinot Noir does an amazing job. It kind of ripens in the middle of the season, and yeah, it's our red variety. So.
And what about yeah? Like,
so the style of Stoneleigh Pinot, yes, the style of Stoneleigh Pinot, it's the lighter style. So because we're grown in a slightly warmer part of Marlborough, so it tends to be if you grow it on the other side of the valley, you'll get a richer, darker style. This style tends to be more red fruit, so it tends to be more the raspberries, strawberries, blueberries on our style. As our style from aroma point of view. Palate wise, again, you've got a little bit of richness, but you've got this kind of lovely tannin structure again, which you pick up from the stony soils as well.
And I always say, since Pinot is a very famous and popular grape, and we have the wines from Burgundy, the prices are, they're topping, racing in the ceiling. And for me, when I think about Pinot, I always tend to think about New Zealand instead, because you get so much for the price. Like, how can you compare them to the European style, or would you place them somewhere else?
I don't think. To be honest, I don't really think so. I still have trouble comparing our Pinots even with New Zealand. We've got Pinots growing like Martinborough, the North Island. We've got quite a few different styles of Pinot in Marlborough because it's the biggest grape growing region. And now what we're growing on our gravels are different to what we're growing on our clays, which we're growing in the Awatere Valley, all quite different styles. Then you've got Waipara further down. Then you've got Central Otago, and same thing. There's about 3, 4, 5 different Pinot styles coming out of there as well. It's quite exciting. I mean, must admit, Pinot Noir does really show the environment and where it's where vines are in the ground. So yeah, that's why it's really hard to make comparisons between countries, and it's like I'm still learning about Pinot in New Zealand, let alone comparing it to like Australia or California or anywhere else in the world. Yeah, it's really hard.
It's really a grape that shows the terroir, if we can talk about terroir in some way. Really, but it's a kind of difficult grape to grow, though. Or is it? How does it work?
No, it's not too bad. I think you just got to make sure that you're respectful where you plant it, and I guess growing it's relatively easy. It's just being respectful of it when it gets into the winery and understanding what to do with it. So, as a Pinot winemaker, it's interesting because we have Pinot from different parts of Marlborough coming into the winery. You actually have to make each of the wines quite separate. So for us here, we don't leave it long on skins. Our maceration time's relatively short. We don't want to accentuate the tannin structure, so we get it in there. We pick up the vibrancy and the prettiness of the color. We add a little bit of oak. We use some untoasted oak chips to the ferment itself to lock in the color. Then we take it off the skins really quickly. Then we put it back onto light oak to just give it a bit more structure. So we're very respectful of the style of wine where the grapes are grown. So I think that's a tricky thing. It's more growing it's okay, but winemaking to the terroir is quite important, I think.
Yeah.
That's where you kind of need history. That's why the Kiwis are sometimes a little bit slow. We have to learn quickly.
Kiwis are slow. But I really enjoy this transparent color of it, like very light in style, and this strawberry style, and it's a beautiful, and of course what you get for the money as well. Such a valuable wine, I think, and all of these like very nice priced, and I think probably that's why they sell so well in Sweden, I guess. As well, very popular on the shelf.
I find it quite interesting because I think New Zealand wines have always got this lovely acidity and freshness about the wines. And my time of being in Sweden and the food I've tried, I mean, you guys are blessed with some absolutely amazing food, and I think it's quite a nice match. This kind of vibrant acidity and freshness, and the lovely food you have over there as well. I think it's great pairing.
well, these wines definitely match our Nordic cuisine. I definitely agree on this Nordic style of food. So, yeah, definitely. But you have quite good cuisine over in New Zealand as well, I think.
Oh yeah, we are blessed actually with we've got a little bit of lamb, we've got a bit of, we've got lots of seafood. So
what do you drink for your Pinot? People always, people that watch these tastings, they always wonder, what would you eat to this wine? I think it's very Swedish that since we're not really a wine growing country or winemaking country, then it's always needs to be perfect match about everything.
The funny thing about this one, because it's a lighter style, I mean, I have this as aperitif. I drink this as aperitif, as a nice glass of wine when I get home from work, actually. For me, then the natural pairing for us would be definitely into, I'd say, the lambs or the venisons. And now we get some quite lucky. We've got friends and you go bring home some wild venison and stuff like that. That's what I kind of look at it. But yeah, I think probably more towards the red meats because we're kind of blessed with lots of white wines for fish and for fresher styles. But yeah, definitely towards more the beef, the lambs.
Definitely. Yeah. I think, well, I'm thinking here how we can wrap this up so you can, because we've tasted all the wines. Is there anything else you want to add about the wines?
Not really. I think I kind of summed it up. I will say something about the 20. Can I say something about the 2021 vintage, which is quite exciting because, as I said, we're just blending up the Semillon Blancs at the moment, and the wines are looking absolutely stunning. So I'm thinking the 2021 vintage, which we'll probably be bottling these in about 8 to 10 weeks. So you'll probably be seeing them in probably 2-3 months, kind of things, which is quite exciting. But you probably have to go back probably 6, 7, 8 years to such a stunning vintage. You probably, I think, it's going to be quite exciting to see what pops out of the 2021 vintage. It's going to be a small vintage, but the wine quality is going to be outstanding. So that's really exciting.
Talking about 2021, and here's quite a important question, I think. Have you been impacted, or how have you been impacted by COVID, like the pandemic?
Oh, yeah, we were lucky, extremely lucky. We went into lockdown, so basically right at the beginning of vintage last year, and pretty much it's been isolated out of the community. So basically the number of cases is pretty minimal. So we just live a normal life. I guess isolation's kind of worked in our favour. So we were panicking last vintage. We did the hard yards. With lockdown, we're deemed as essential industry, so we just carried on. But it probably affected us probably more from the fact that we couldn't have labour come in from the islands. Normally we have workers coming from Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu to do our pruning, and those people that are in the country stayed, but we weren't able to get this migrant labour come in to the pruning of our vineyards, but we managed to get through anyway. But then it's been business as usual, really. But the lack of labour has been a problem. But hey, a bit of mechanisation, a bit of Kiwi ingenuity, we kind of got through it all right. But we're very lucky, extremely lucky.
Yeah, because you've been in quite a good lockdown and not a lot of COVID over on New Zealand comparing to the rest of the world.
No, we took single-digit cases. I think we've got one case at the moment in New Zealand, so that's nothing. So isolation's kind of worked in our favour, but we kind of kept it out. So,
but has it impacted?
We've been very lucky.
Has it impacted the sales a lot, or could you export?
Yes, it has.
Still.
Yeah, sales have gone through the roof. Yeah. We didn't. We coming out of vintage last year, we were panicking that the fact that sales going to be affected, but it went completely in the opposite direction.
Wow.
Completely went through the roof. Basically, we're pretty much our tank's empty. We've got nothing left. The whole industry, New Zealand wine industry, is pretty much sold out. It's just based on just huge demand. It's incredible. We didn't even see this coming. So it's kind of worked in our favour. I don't know. It's that sitting at home, having a glass of wine, let's try something different. Let's try, have a glass of Kiwi wine. Oh, it's not too bad. And coming back for more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible. I didn't expect it. Yeah. Our domestic sales, even imported sales in New Zealand have gone through the roof as well. So it's incredible. So everybody's drinking a little bit more wine. So that's good. And people are drinking up too. People are drinking better wine, which is it's exciting. Yeah.
Perfect. We have some questions here as well. Do you have a favorite, any of your wines, or are they like babies? You can choose any, or do you have a favorite?
We're very protective. The Riesling is a funny one. That's very protected. For us, it's quite an iconic wine for us in New Zealand. I mean, Sauvignon Blanc kind of is always going to be a favourite, and we always try to do our best. And I guess no, we don't really have favourites. I love the Chardonnay. See, I kind of love a bit of everything, really. Yeah. No, we don't really have favourites. I shouldn't say that, but we do protect the Riesling, and yeah, we love the odd Chardonnay. There's a couple. No, I'm not the only winemaker. We've all kind of. There's Laura Kate as well. She's one of our winemakers, and Greg. And they're all very protective about everything we do. So that's good. It's a lovely. We're lucky because they're beautiful vineyards, and the people working our vineyards are really great people. And because most of our fruit comes off our own vineyards, so if we've got a problem, we can go talk to people. We can sort it out. Then we can see what we actually do in the vineyards come through in the wine. So it's amazing environment.
And
good, lovely wine company.
A lovely wine company. And I think that probably that's why Stoneleighs is so popular in Sweden as well. You can see it through the wines that we have over here and all the work that you do. And it's really interesting too. And I'm so really very, very pleased and glad that you took the time to show the wines together with me. And I think that people really enjoyed as well. I can see here that there's a few people that actually ordered the Rapaura wines now during the tasting, so that's good. And I can see here that there's some that's been Sauv lovers, but after the tasting the Riesling tonight, it might be the new favorite. So see, we can
convert people to Riesling.
Yeah, exactly. Question here: Did he really say that 3 of the third exported to Sweden? 3/3. We're quite a big market for you, yeah.
Well, it's our biggest market. Our biggest market is Australia. Is it still Australia? Then I think you guys are our second largest market. It's a huge market for us. It's incredible, yeah. It's probably our most important market, to be honest.
We can ask the market team later on and see which is the biggest market.
Yeah, I think it is, because you tend to be taking all our top end wines, our icon wines, our Rapaura series and Latitude. So you tend to quite spread. It's amazing, yeah. Now Australia just take a lot of our classic Sauvignon Blanc, and your market's probably very similar to the New Zealand market and the amount of SKUs we send. So it's incredible. So you're kind of an extension of New Zealand, or we're an extension of you.
But you make a rosé as well, right?
Yes, we do. Yes. We make a couple of rosés actually. We make a Stoneleigh Classic Rosé, and we do a Latitude Rosé as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a question here about some rosé as well, that someone really enjoyed your rosé, so needed to ask if you still make it. Perfect. We are number 3 or 4 in size. Oh, well, we see here. Australia, just classic Sauv. Here we go. We're the most loved market. Perfect. We have
I've got to be careful what I say.
Perfect. We have someone that can answer the questions for us here in our chat. Jamie, thank you very much for your time. And I know that you have a tough schedule today, so we need to say thank you. And if there's nothing you want to add about the wines before we say goodbye and thank you for tonight. Or for this morning for you.
This morning, yeah. Thank you very much for the time. It's great. Anytime, if you ever want to ring up, have a chat, no problem at all. And we're always free to give out any information as possible. You guys love our wines, and we love you for that. It's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. And now, when you said, I'm just going to call you another time and just have a chat about the wines. You just open the door here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and thanks for your time.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. See you guys.
See you. Jag säger, ja, det var ju helt fantastiskt att ha med Jamie på länk så här från Nya Zeeland. Det funkar ju jättebra trots den stora tidsskillnaden. Och har ni några frågor så är det bara att ställa dem i kommentarsfältet så ska vi se till att svara. Och nästa vecka så är det dags för rosé tillsammans med Anders Meldén. Nästa onsdag alltså kör vi rosé. Stort tack för ikväll. Gör vi sådär.
Vi har bara små problem och ingenting att klaga på. Du, om du ser allt lite ovanifrån blir de jättesmå. Om man bara pekar på felen gör ingenting trasigt helt igen. Jag tänker ibland och jag lovar dig det kunde varit värre. Ja, det kunde varit värre. Jag har gråtit ibland när du sårat mig, men nu är tårarna färre. Och det kunde varit värre. Och du, har vi blivit klok?